little chilly today. It snowed a little bit last night and then froze overnight, and it's been freezing most of the day. It warmed up a little bit, but it's just barely below freezing, just enough that the water's icing over a little bit. Got the cement mixer out and mixed up a few batches of concrete, and we've got our columns pretty much cemented in. That middle one is all done, and the far one there, that one's got just a little bit more to put on it, and then a little bit to put on this rear one here, and they'll all be done. Got the middle one covered up with some bags and some insulation, some styrofoam to keep it from freezing overnight. Supposed to be nice for another day or so before it turns off raining again, so I'll give a chance for that stuff to set up a little bit. It's in the ground, and so it shouldn't freeze. The ground's fairly warm yet. Just about dark now, so we're just finishing up. We'll be done here, and then get the tools cleaned up, and then it'll be too dark to see. We got those pilings or columns put in the other day. It was 28 degrees, so it was kind of fun doing that, but the ground was firm and it wasn't froze down in those pockets in the forms. We actually had to bail those out, get the water out of them. We got all three of them poured and set up. We got the equipment cleaned up. I put some bags and stuff over the top of that cement, that concrete, so it wouldn't freeze, and then some insulation on top of that. I didn't want to backfill it because it was still soft, and I didn't want the dirt and stuff to get mixed down into the cement. So the next morning it was still cold out, still freezing out, 25 degrees or so, and I pulled those bags and insulation and stuff away from the cement, and the stuff had set a little bit and it didn't freeze. It was still warm down in there in the ground. Well, I got the machinery going and backfilled over those holes and covered them all up, so if it did freeze, it would have to freeze pretty hard to get down to that cement, so it should help it slow down curing and keep it from freezing. Then it warmed up to 48 degrees just as I got done with all of that, and started raining, so the ground was froze here, and it was slipperier than hell around here for a while. You couldn't even stand up here on these little hills and stuff we have. And then it poured down rain for about 3 days. We didn't get much done then. Well, it cleared up a little bit about 3 days ago, and we got out the water level, measured off those columns and marked them for height, the height that I wanted. And I had my son sit there and watch the bubble when it got up to the level I wanted on the house at the bottom of the rim joists, and then I marked the columns there and got all three of them marked. And yesterday morning it cleared up a little while, so I got the oxyacetylene torch up here to get ready to cut them off. Columns are cut down 12 inches below the bottom of that rim joist, so I had to transfer that mark down 12 inches from what we had put on there. Got the oxyacetylene torch out and started cutting. Well, of course, about the time I got everything out, it started snowing and raining. I got the first column cut off without any problem, and then that second column, the middle one, is right under the eaves there of the porch, so all the rain and stuff, even though it wasn't raining very hard, all of that was coming right down on it. So I got kind of wet cutting that one off. And then that last one here, the top one, it was kind of the same way, but we got all three of them cut off. We got some more snow overnight. I was hoping it was going to kind of clear off a little bit. It warmed up. It rained a little bit last night, but we got had about 1.5 inches of snow yesterday, and now we got about 3 inches this morning here. So I'm going to have to get the machinery going and get the snow taken care of here, and then I can see blue sky up there, so I'll get the grinder out and grind those columns off and get them smoothed up and tapered and ready to weld. The sun's come out here a little bit. It's trying to peek through. It's really beautiful when the sun comes out on this fresh snow on the trees and stuff. Well, I had a big day planned yesterday, getting some stuff done while it was dry, getting those columns ground down, polished up and stuff to get ready to weld the channel iron to it. But with the snow, the first thing I had to do was plow the snow a little bit. About the time I got cleaned up to where I could get into my bucket, the front end of the Bobcat started getting wobbly. I was afraid maybe I'd broken axle or something, but the left front tire was flat. Popped off the bead. The beads on them are so hard that I can't get them to seat by myself anymore. I don't have a bead seater or anything, so I wound up going out and digging in the snowbank and trying to find one of my old wheels and tires. I dug it out and had to change it, and I got that all done and got ready to get going, and I was out of fuel, so then I had to fuel up the Bobcat. By the time I got all done, it was late. It was already getting dark, and I didn't really have time to do anything else outside. Anyway, today we got a little better start. It was nice last night. The moon was out, full moon and stars, and everything looked like it was going to be real nice, but it snowed about another inch or so on top of the old snow this morning, but I didn't plow it and I just let it go. I got the tops of these columns cleaned up. Took the grinder, the 4.5-inch grinder, and smoothed off the tops of them where the cut was with the oxyacetylene torch. Wasn't too bad, but there's a little slag and stuff up there and a couple of rough spots, but got it all smoothed down flat. I beveled the top edges, and then I polished the mill scale and the rust off down about an inch from the top of each one of those. Oh, it's just about dark now, and today's the shortest day of the year. Actually, it's lighter today at this time than it has been on several days because the clouds are thinner, but we're not going to see the full moon and the meteor shower tonight. The weather's supposed to improve for a few days now and get cold again, so tomorrow I'll get that I-beam out and get it polished up, or get it, yeah, I'm going to take the wire brush to it and get all the loose rust and stuff off of it, and then I can get it up here and get it welded onto these columns. I got that I-beam welded on those two columns today. Had my son helping me move it around and stuff and wire brushing the slag off the welds. I use the Century 130 wire feed. It's pretty marginal for that. I was thinking about going and getting some stick electrodes and try stick welding it, arc welding it, but I haven't arc welded, stick welded for 50 years. I've been doing the wire feed welding and stuff, and I'm not too bad at that, so I just went ahead and used it. Made a good root weld in there on those, and a couple of cap welds, and got it burned in pretty good. That I-beam is only 2 inches wide on the flanges on that. Those pipes, the columns, are 4 inches, so there was a inch gap on both sides. I welded in that so that the columns there are solid on top so that no water can run down in it. I was hoping to get that done yesterday, the 21st, December 21st, but my wife's car slid in the ditch, and we spent a good portion of the day working on that. That took longer than expected. She didn't drive it in the ditch. It was parked on a hillside on a road, and she got out to do something, and the car took off sliding down and went off into a big ditch and damaged a door. I guess the door must have been open or something, but it got crumpled pretty good, but nobody got hurt. I took my pickup down there with put chains on it to see if I could pull it out with it, and it was just too far over the bank, too steep of a bank, and too steep of a driveway to pull it out with a pickup. So my son put the chains on the Bobcat and run it down there, and we hooked onto it and pulled it out with it. So that took up a good portion of the day, and I dug that I-beam out, took it into the shop, and took the wire brush and cleaned all the loose rust and scale off of it. Now it's going to go ahead and rust again sitting here because we're not going to paint it. It's too cold to paint it, but at least got most of the loose scale and stuff off of it, so we can touch it with a wire brush when it warms up and when we get it covered up so there's no water on it. And it was a nice day today, but it warmed way up, so the snow on the roof was melting and dripping down on everything, but I didn't get too wet. Luckily, the icicles that are hanging off the eaves didn't fall on me and skewer me. That much is done, and it's dark. It's 3:30, too dark to do anything else. I had a hell of a time. Well, the welding went okay, but I still had a hell of a time with typical my glasses fogging up and the welding helmet fogging up, and so it takes a while to get everything defogged and make a bead on there and then hold for a while and defog and then make another one. And that last one was kind of tough, touchy, because it was getting pretty dark out. It was hard to see it, but we got it all done.